Okay, so it's official. We are officially live on Facebook, we're live on Discord, and we're live on TikTok. No pressure.
This is good. This is an improvement.
Yes. Hey everybody, we should be going live with our meeting in about 3 minutes. We'll see you then. Thank you guys for being here.
Is that your kid here?
Yes. Yeah, he had cross country practice, so he's watching.
So you're streaming live on Discord and
TikTok, Discord, and Facebook. Facebook is last minute.
So it's live on Facebook right now?
It's live on Facebook right now.
You happen to know the date of the next after hours?
No. Leah just said it to my brain, but
Okay.
process. I want to say the 15th, the 3rd.
I can look at my...
It's not based on
May 15th. Yeah.
And most states have adopted that because when you leave it to the municipalities, some will adopt it, like may change their zoning laws.
From other meetings or is
but they have a lot of zoning rules.
Sorry.
They have those, they just don't have, they try to pretend that they're slipping in the cracks.
I've seen Leah in precedents.
But they're like a really broad, simple parking requirement rule that basically means you have to like go a whole or a single family home, you got to
We're live on Facebook.
What's the There was a video. No, did not see that video.
It's like, alright, so you can build a little McDonald's.
I sent you a video.
And then everything else has to be modified up to the discretion of the so when it's just they have a team of instead of planners and civil engineers. That they come up
Alright, so get your Sounds good. Getting ready, yeah. You got your mic? Want to blow your zoo? You have your mic or no? Don't worry, it'll be alright. Good. We love that you're here.
Background information.
The whole thing returns as you
Okay, we're gonna get started. Everybody, put your hands and we're gonna get going. Hey, everybody, take a seat. Hi. Hi. Thank you for coming out tonight. We're so excited to see everybody. Welcome to the first Indivisible St. Johnsbury After Hours. Couple of announcements. We are streaming live tonight on TikTok, Discord, and Facebook. Thank you to Crystal here. Also, Keith is wandering around taking photos. If you do not want to be photographed, avoid the guy with the black hat here. If you need to use the...
Could you hold it really close to your mouth?
I will try.
Thank you.
All right. Bathrooms. If you need to use the restroom, it's going to be through Sam's. Watch your step as you enter in there. There's 2 steps down. Also, the exits, like a flight attendant, they're in the back, on the side, and the side here. And later on this evening, please stop by this wall over here. We're kind of doing a little post-it exercise to get some thoughts on what this group can be. All right, so here's our agenda. Welcome, we're here. In a couple of minutes, we're going to do a little meet and greet exercise so we can start to get to know each other. Then we've got a great lineup of speakers. And then we're going to do a little mini group exercise. We tend to, every other week in the daytime meeting, break into some miniature groups and we do some working through various topics that interest us, like national events, local and state. And then after that, we'll take questions, make some announcements, and talk about what is next. So, here's our goal tonight. We want to figure out, how do we stay informed? How are we preparing for failing systems? How do we help each other? And how can we connect with this community? So let's meet. Dakota's going to take it from here.
Okay, so if we're going to achieve the goals that we want to achieve, we're going to have to mobilize. So I'm going to ask you to mobilize yourselves right now and move to the back of the room where we're going to make a big double circle. An inside circle and an outside circle. Take your pick. I'll see you there. Inside out. Inside circle you can face out. Outside circle face in. All right, now let's start. Find a partner. If you're on the inside, find a partner on the outside. Find a partner. Find a partner. Awesome, thank you. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to go through 3 questions. The person you're looking at right now is your first person. But after this person, the inner circle is going to step. Which direction, folks?
Right.
Left. And that's why we're here.
Always to the left.
Step to the left, and you'll have a new partner. So you will have 3 partners total, and 3 different questions. You have a minute and a half each for your to answer the question, and when you're the speaker, you speak without interruption, and then the person on the other side is just listening. And then when you hear this sound, it'll be time to switch. And you switch, and the listener becomes speaker, and the speaker becomes listener. Any questions? I will tell you in a minute. Okay, here's the first question. Why are you here? What motivated you to come tonight? What motivated you to come? Okay? Go. Stay with this partner and switch who's speaking. 90 seconds. Go.
In front of the sign. No, get over there. Oh, that's lovely. Come on, rock it, rock it. Thank you.
The please notice that if you chose not to cooperate, there would be nothing I the power is with the people. All right, you are now being asked to, if you're in the center circle, move one step, one person to the left. You should have a partner.
Drinks over here.
Drinks are over there.
Here's your assignment! Here's your 90-second assignment. Whoever your first speaker is going to answer the question, what is my history in participating in my community? Volunteer work, working with nonprofits, political work, just how have you been involved? PTO? That's a PTA! I've been on the farm so long. Okay. The speaker, just share your history of involvement in your community. And for some of us, that's a lot of years. So just pick what you're most interested in talking about. All right? Here you go.
That's what I was wondering, like any of this, like resource material, what's going on up there?
Hey guys, thank you all for joining the live. We're working on our meet and greets and we'll have our speakers up here shortly.
steps to shuffle left. To find your new partner. Take a step to shuffle left. And find your new partner. For many of us, since that fateful day in November, we've been on a roller coaster of feelings. Some of us have been really upset about those things that have happened that we're really upset about in terms of things we care about, people we care about being threatened, and things that we care about being threatened in various ways. We are now asking you to share, what are you motivated to protect? Because we work from our feelings, and that's what motivates us to show up. So what are you motivated to protect, and what are you motivated to protest? So if you can, in a minute and a half, answer those two different questions, and sometimes they're the same. What are you interested in protect, and what are you interested in motivated to protest?
Oh, there's a break in the action. So, okay, that's the only change I made. Oh, so that was well, if you can, if it's not too bad, whatever, you can do that. I spent all this time trying to figure out how to use it this year, but as soon as we go the same day, it makes it okay, that's great. So let me leave this. Can I put this on, or I can send you I'll send you the right, that's what I figured. It's kind of like if you know, right? Yeah. You're not any. Right. Check. Thank you. Oh, that's great. Because if we go to Indivisible, that means that coordinate is the same for the floor.
Yep.
Oh, I see. That's fine. Good to see you. No, that's fine. But that makes it a lot shorter. So it's not a big deal. Okay, so people know. Yeah, they make my life easier. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. I love these. We do this every
Hey everybody, is this working? Can you hear me? Is this close enough? Oh, okay. I think that's good. I'm really glad to see everybody here. We've been, my name is Susan Parker. I'm one of the co-facilitators and co-founders of Indivisible St. Johnsbury. And I want to tell you a little bit about our backstory and then hopefully how you all can be part of our coming story. But we've been wanting to do this for a long time and wanting to find a space where people can come, after hours. So it's really great to see everybody here. So thank you for coming. First of all, does everybody here know about National Indivisible that we're part of? Anybody not know about National Indivisible?
Assume that there's someone in here who doesn't.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. So National Indivisible was started in 2016 after the first Trump election by a married couple, Leah Greenberg and Ezra Levin, or Klein, I don't know, and Ezra. And they had both worked in Congress during the Obama administration and had to deal with a lot of people from the Tea Party, if you remember the Tea Party, that were like throwing all sorts of roadblocks into what Obama was doing. And so they learned a lot from their often effective techniques. So right after the election, they got together and kind of after their despair, put together a Google Doc about how to effectively fight back in Congress based on what they had learned. And I remember reading this right after the election, and I, covered Congress, and I was so impressed by their practicality and their thoughtfulness. And that guide really went viral, as they say, and people started spontaneously beginning in local Indivisible groups around the country, including there was one in Peachum that I was part of for a while. And so from the beginning, there's been this structure that I found helpful of this national group that provides this kind of world-class strategy, but also the local groups, and they really leave it to the local groups to decide what we need to do in our communities. So right after the election, this time around, I was feeling like I have to do something, and I just wanted to join a group and be a little worker bee. That's what I wanted, and I definitely did not want to start one. But there wasn't an active one around here, and so there were a few of us separately who wrote National Indivisible. Kathy Emerson was one right there, myself and Robin, who I don't think is right here, but they connected us, and so we brought each a friend in early December to Boole at Wednesday at 11, which is I think how we ended up with this Wednesday at 11 meeting, because we just kept meeting. So there were 6 of us, and I think that we really kind of had 3 ideas at the beginning of what we wanted to do. And the first was, and this was really important to me, was that I think we needed to be with like-minded people. A real goal of authoritarianism is to make us feel isolated and in despair. And it's really hard to do that when you're with like-minded people who are working toward the same thing. And my dad was a minister, and so I kind of come from that background of the community is really important. So that was number 1. Number 2 was that we wanted to help meet some immediate needs in our community as we learned about them. So we kind of very quickly started doing a monthly meal to the shelter in St. Jay, which we've been doing every month since January, and people can sign up. And that's been really meaningful. We contribute to the food bank, and we're still learning to do more and more things. We now have a community garden plot that we got a little bit later in the season. So I think they're now kind of preparing for next season, but we want to grow fresh food to contribute to the food bank. And the third thing was take action. We want to also just take action. And the way we've been doing it in our Wednesday meetings is every other week we have work groups, which we are going to do mini work groups tonight. And those are the groups where you can be in your areas that you're interested in. So our work groups are protests and events, which is probably the most visible work of what we're doing. Communications, which really helps protests and events and does lots of other things. Local and state, which is really focused on kind of food insecurity right now. National, which is working on national issues. They've been doing postcard campaigns and things like that. for the Wisconsin Supreme Court race that was back in April. And then education, which I'm part of, and that's all about educating ourselves and others. And so some of the things that we've done since we started are, you might be most familiar with these protests. We started with a Tesla one, like in December, that Robin did, and that got some coverage in the Caledonia Record, and so that brought a lot of people to our group. We've done a number of other ones. Hands Off, No Kings was the biggest one. We got 1,000 people, which was amazing. And we've also been with the Nekasan with Northeast Kingdom Asylum Seekers. We helped them with a protest for one of their asylees who's been wrongfully detained. And so we're continuing to do that. We have this very active communications group, and they've done a website. We have an email newsletter. If you haven't gotten on the list, it's over there. It's a great way for you to be in touch with what we're doing. We're on all sorts of social media. Crystal is getting us on pretty much every platform, which is great. So we're doing, and we have Keith Chamberlain, who does these great graphics that you've seen today. Like, we just have some amazing people working on communications. And in education, we've been doing some different things. We've been bringing in speakers to help us learn more about the past civil rights movement so that we can learn from them. We've had a civil disobedience training. We've had a de-escalation training because we feel like as we do more and more protests, that's going to be a skill that we all really need. So we have marshals now that have been trained in that. The local group, as I said, is really focused on food insecurity right now. National group is doing things at the level of writing postcards and things like that. And I think those are all the groups. And we're a new group. Like I always say this, we're a baby group. Maybe we're toddlers, I don't know, but we're young. And so we're really trying to learn as we go. And we have a new leadership structure, and we're hoping that some of you will want to be part of this because we really want to get your ideas. But the leadership structure is essentially people from each of our work groups, plus kind of a group that helps with logistics and the vision. And our first meeting is actually tomorrow, but we're hoping that some folks here might want to help us because we all have our things that we see and the things that we don't see. So what we hope is that this will be a place that you feel comfortable with and you'll keep coming back to, and that we can keep learning from you because there's so much to do, and that's the thing that kind of keeps me going with this group, is that there's just so much heart and soul, and people are doers, which I love. We get depressed and sad, but then we're like, all right, now what do we do next? So I'm so happy that you're here, and hope that you find this valuable, and please come up to me or anybody else that you hear speaking from our group, like Leah, and talk to us individually. So thank you.
Okay, we have a cell phone turned in. Is anybody missing their phone with a Fairbanks sticker on the back?
Fairbanks, you see it? Is it your phone? Right there. She has it up on the stage.
Sorry, no pressure. Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Jacqueline from policyforthepeople.com.
I'm half chicken, half alcohol. Okay. Testing, 1, 2, 3. I'm kind of loud about this, but I'm gonna use the mic. Hi. My name is Jacqueline Posley, and I suppose that I'll start with kind of who I am first. Oh, sorry. 5 seconds. 4. Oh, great. Best tech person in the world. My name is Jacqueline Posley. Originally, I'm a Mississippian. I'm super proud of that. People usually know that before they know anything else about me. I've been in Vermont for 8 years, I think, 7.5 years. So I guess this is kind of home now. Where my story kind of begins in this whole policy realm is that I was a lobbyist, the real kind at that time, the kind that you say, when somebody tells you a lobbyist. I was a lobbyist for liquor and lottery, and during that time I realized that there's a real effort both on state levels in all 50 states, including our very own beautiful Vermont, as well as on the federal level, to really keep marginalized people out of the process. They do that in a few ways. I'll list them quickly. I know there are other speakers. There has been this real effort to keep marginalized people out. Vermont has done a good job at bridging that a little bit post-COVID, because we do have access to go onto YouTube now and to watch anything that the legislature is doing in an official capacity. But there are still those barriers, those language barriers. Even if you're a native English speaker, a lot of those words and those phrases, you're like, what does that even mean, and how does that relate to me? So post November 4th, dun dun dun, I said, what can I do? What is in my capacity? What can I carry as an individual? And so I created something called Policy for the People. So Policy for the People, as of last year, was just the Vermont legislature. And so essentially, I go into the State House Tuesday through Friday, which is the days, if you didn't know, that your legislature is in session. And I essentially write about it. And I write about it in a way that I pull out the fluff, and I tell you exactly what is pertaining to you and how it will affect, if it passes, your everyday lives. And so it's called Policy for the People. I put it out in a few ways. I just got a brand new website. I didn't make a slide because my bad. But I did get a brand new website that's much easier to use than my last one. Last year, I was actually manually translating through ChatGPT into 5 languages. This year, I've upgraded. I know, it was a while. This year, I've upgraded my website, so it'll have a translation feature on it, and I've actually expanded, so I'm doing Mississippi, Minnesota, as well as Vermont. So I really welcome you to stay engaged. Your legislative session starts during the first-ish week of January. If you could, please stay engaged. These are decisions that affect every single day of our lives. I'm so focused, hyper-focused, laser-focused on the state legislature because it's so much more local than the federal policies and changes that are happening to us every single day. When we look at our school systems, when we look at healthcare, when we look at housing, my goodness, in Vermont, all of this is directly dictated by our state legislature. And usually, as everyday Americans, as everyday Vermonters, we have absolutely no idea what they're in there doing and what they're talking about. So literally, I call Policy for the People, Policy Decoded. Do not be intimidated. It's 10 bullet points or less. It's newsletter style. I have YouTube. I have all the social media. I really want to work with you guys, not only to educate us as a group, but to pass that along and tap our neighbors as well and keep them informed and keep them more engaged, because misinformation is not an excuse twice, much less 3 times. So that's Policy for the People. Thank you. And I am introducing Isaiah, who's next up to speak. Thank you.
What's your website?
Oh. Sorry about that. Again, next time I'll have my stuff together. I'll have a little slide for you. But if you happen to have your handy dandy phone or a pencil, pen, it is Policy, the number 4, thepppl.com. So that's Policy, the number 4, thepppl.com. And you're welcome to sign up for my newsletter and legislative briefings. Thank you.
All right, so I'm here to talk about urban planning and zoning's role in sort of the housing crisis and the cost of living. I had a speech prepared, but my printer didn't work last week. So I'm going to sort of wing this, but hopefully it'll still turn out good. So my name is Isaiah Wilson, and I don't have any professional planning background, nor do I have any long-term experience in zoning. I did recently join the St. Johnsbury zoning planning commission, and we've gone over bylaws. And well, I've looked at the bylaws, and prior to the changes we're currently making, I wanted to say it's very good. And I wouldn't say that the changes we're making are as far as they need to be. But sort of the historical role that planning has played and the zoning has played in the housing crisis is to limit what housing can be built in order to create sort of the perfect little cul-de-sac single-family zones that you see that have sprawled up ever since, you know, the troops came back in World War II.
Hold the microphone like
Oh.
right to your lips.
Right to my lips? Oh,
Yeah.
jeez. That's gonna get really uncomfortable. And so if you don't know, when the troops came back, there was a series of bills to give all sorts of rewards to the troops for serving. And that was a very noble cause. At the time, there was this change in the financing system that really prioritized the mass production of single-family homes. And it was thought that with the population we had at the time, that we could actually support giving everybody a single-family home, given that they were white or whatnot, and because of course that's American history for you. But and so that's what they did with the troops, is they gave them a parcel of land and said, and then they gave them stipends and money and their pension payouts, and like build a home on this lot. And so these troops, they got together with their towns and whatnot, and developers and the bank, and they drew out all these cul-de-sacs and single-family neighborhoods, and then they created the zoning laws to protect those single-family neighborhoods. And they didn't want, there was this big flight leaving all the suburbs from all the pores and all the what they had considered filth at the time. And they wanted to drive the cars to work and all that. And you could understand it, but it wasn't an efficient switch. Each mile of road costs today about an average of $20K per mile of maintenance per year. So let's say if all of your housing is everybody's on a separate road with their own quarter-acre lot or a half-acre lot or an acre lot, is where most of these single-family zones started. Then you're talking about a lot of road, and then you got to account for the water pipes, the electrical, the sewer pipes. If nowadays there's broadband, there's all sorts of other utilities you have to factor in, and that everybody's spread apart. That gets it really expensive. And where does that money come from? It comes from your property taxes, or from fees you pay directly, depending on your municipality. That's expensive. And so, what is the solution to that? Well, we had a system that was very effective for aggregating municipal costs for centuries, and that was people living together as a community in apartment buildings in the downtown, the same buildings where you worked, the same just like St. Johnsbury's downtown, where it has a walkable, you've got stores on the front, you've got apartments above them. Like all these buildings, they have apartments above them, with the exception of this large building that used to be a strip mall. But that system where you have a bunch of people living together, it's cheaper per person, because all the municipal upkeep it doesn't scale the same way when you make things denser. You have all this extra space between things, between houses, that isn't there when you have dense urban living. And it makes transportation easier. If you can walk to where you work, that's a lot. That's really good. And losing that has meant a lot of things. It has meant that rent has been higher. It has meant that property taxes has been higher. It has meant that seniors age out of where they can live, and they get isolated from their communities. And they can no longer, if you have to drive everywhere and you can't drive because your vision's gone bad, what does that mean for you? Well, it means you probably have to live in some cramped, like senior living home, or you have to spend exorbitant amount of money to leave when you're no longer having income. And what it doesn't mean for the youth, it means that now they have to contend with a housing market that can't keep up with the demand. And if you can't keep up with demand, then the value goes up, the buying, the cost of the home goes up. So how does that relate to what we can do with zoning? Well, in Vermont, there was an act that passed a couple of years ago called Act 47. And what Act 47 did in Section 100 is it outlawed single-family zones in Vermont. In fact, the minimum units allowed on any zone that is residential is now 4. You can't regulate it to be any less. And so that goes to what we're doing today with tomorrow actually with the Planning Commission, is that we have to actually update the rules so that they comply with state law. But what does that mean? Well, it means that now if you want to build a house anywhere in St. Johnsbury, you can build up to at least 4 units, which is a lot better. The lot coverage is now going to be around 80%. That's another way you can do it. The way that in the past your house could only cover like 30% of your lot, so when you had all this extra yard that was just wasted space. For some people, that's not wasted space. But if you look at it from a planning standpoint, it's just more space between you and the next building, which is just more road. And for the finance aspect of municipal planning, there's what's called a TIF, or tax increment financing. Tax increment financing is when you go to your town and the bank, and they set up an agreement where the difference between your lot before you develop it and the lot after you develop it becomes what you pay for the mortgage on that building. So instead of it going to your town's property tax, that ensures to the town, because they're the ones who end up enforcing it, that at the end of that mortgage, they have more property tax to work with that they wouldn't have before, and the bank gets paid. So that's one way we can finance that so it actually gets built. The reason why we can't finance it very well in the current system is that the current system is built towards already having equity. If you have a large amount of equity, then you can finance your next home. But if you're stuck in a 20, 30-year mortgage, and then you can't really use the equity you built from one year to the next year to start building anything else. And so if you build a large apartment block, you have to wait years to be able to build your next large apartment block because you're paying off the last one. And another solution we've done, both on the state level and the Planning Commission, is what's called an accessory dwelling unit. Those are now allowed in any residential zone. An accessory dwelling unit is basically a smaller home you can build on your lot in that extra yard space that you might have. Those are easier to finance because you can use equity on the home you already own to get a home improvement loan, and then use that home improvement loan to build that ADU. So those are sort of like the small town solutions that I'm kind of trying to ask you guys if you can start doing to help alleviate the lack of units we have in this town, is to densify your neighborhoods. Densify them with ADUs, redevelop your homes into apartment buildings if you aren't using them. If you own 2 homes, like let's say you had a bigger building you raised your family in, and then you have a smaller building that you now live in, and the other one you're just renting out. If you could redevelop that lot into more things, add another unit on it, that could really help with the cost of living. You could either selling off, you can later subdivide and sell off the ADU as a separate building, or you can rent out, for cheaper if you can, get more more units out of your lot, because your utilities don't scale the denser they get. Like if you add, let's say the difference between 10 units versus 20 units is not going to be the same difference per cost of unit than 5 units to 10 units. The higher you scale up, the smaller each increment per unit, like the cost in additional upkeep is, if you densify. Whereas if you build 20 units in terms of 20 homes in a single family subdivision up past the hospital, like they're doing right now, then all you're doing is building more road. There was more I wanted to talk about, but I can't quite remember. So I'm going to pass it off to Crystal here, who's the next speaker.
Bear with me here, I gotta perform my own IT. Alright, so they actually let me out of the back for a change. It's kind of exciting. So what I want to talk to everybody about is community. I'm from Plattsburgh, New York. I was born and raised there, have spent most of my political career there. I helped out with Bernie, Occupy, Dakota Access Pipeline. I was homeless for a little bit and helped with homeless activism in Plattsburgh and setting up some of the homeless shelters there. But why is community important? Community is just more than a group of people living in the same area. It's a network of relationships, a shared identity, and a sense of belonging. It's where we find support, engagement, and opportunities with each other. How do I know? Because I moved from a strong community. I was active in the arts, music, and politics. I created lifelong bonds with some really amazing people. I never would have met them otherwise had I not been active in my community. And I miss that community. But now I'm here, and now it's my job to create that sense of community, not only for myself, but for all of you. Because without that community, there is nothing that we can't do. A strong community provides a sense of belonging and security. When we feel connected to those around us, we're likely to feel safe, supported, and valued. I can speak from experience that it helps your well-being and happiness. Let's face it, those winter nights get awfully long. A great example of this is what we're doing right now. We're coming together to fight inhumane policies and injustice on our own soil. We see this in the way that we help each other shovel a driveway or a sidewalk, or the way we support local businesses and community events. So thank you, Sam's Listening Bar. Please make sure you go pick up your guillotine. Communities also offer a platform for collaboration and shared growth. When people come together, they can achieve things that would be impossible alone. Think about your local farmer market, your town library, or your community garden. These are all examples of how a community can pull its resources and talents to create something beneficial for everybody. However, a strong community requires active participation. It's not enough just to simply exist in this place. You need to contribute to it as well. This can be done in many ways: volunteering at a local organization, or simply offering a helping hand to a disabled neighbor, or volunteering at your local homeless shelter. When we actively engage, we strengthen the bonds that hold us together and create a more vibrant and resilient community. A strong community is vital for individual and collective well-being. By actively participating and contributing, we can all play a role in building a stronger and vibrant community for ourselves and future generations. Let's all strive to be active and engaged members of our communities, because in the end, we're all stronger together. A community is more than just a place, it's a home. And I don't know about any of you, but I will not let a wannabe dictator ruin my community or my home. As James Madison had written in the Constitution, all power is originally vested in and consequently derived from the people. You may just be one person, but we are Vermont strong, and we are the people. All right, and here is Leah.
Hopefully they can hear me online. Okay, my name is Leah Schofield. I'm on the Communications Action Group, and I just wanted to walk everybody through what we've got going on, because we have a lot. We're real busy. Indivisible.Johnsbury.org. That's our website. Hopefully you've seen it. We try to keep it updated. You can sign up for our newsletter there. Events are posted there. We try to post an events resource page, like for No Kings. There's great information there from some of our members about nonviolence, de-escalation training, things to put on your posters when you're protesting, how to be safe at protests. It's a great site. It's only getting better, and we can also use any content anybody would like to write. We will take it. We are also on Mobilize. I think a lot of you found this event there at mobilize.us/ STJ. There you can find all our events going on. We have something every week. So we've got our Wednesday 11 a.m. meetings. We've got a great group that goes to the overpass on Friday and Sunday afternoons, waves signs, shows their posters, gets as many honks as they can. We're on Discord now. I'm kind of new to Discord, so thankfully Crystal knows what's going on. But it's like a chat for the community, and we're going to do a lot of social activities there, she tells me. Our newsletter. I hope you guys are all signed up for that. I know we've collected a lot of email addresses to start sending our newsletter. This goes out almost every week. It's got a recap of what's going on, the events that are coming up, and more information for you. Social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok as Indivisible St. J. Blue Sky, indivisiblestjohnsbury.org. We are not on the platform formerly known as Twitter.
Yay. And we have a Facebook group too.
Yes, thank you. We also have a Facebook group if you haven't joined that yet. Indivisible St. Johnsbury Community. Look for us there on Facebook. But we need you. We have these action groups, you've heard them talked about. We have local and state, national, education, events and protests, communications, and now we're adding a new one, after hours. We need some people on that. We would like your voice to come up and help us make decisions. So please talk to us about joining that. So to give you an idea of what some of these groups do, communications, that's our group. We're doing social media, we're updating the website, we're sending the newsletter, we're coordinating letters to the editor of the Caledonian Record. We're on this Discord. The events group, they could use help with speakers, organizing, safety, marshals at the events, coordinating with other Indivisible groups in the area, and monitoring what's going on with national events. There are definitely other groups to get involved with, so now we're going to do a little exercise where we're going to break into those mini groups and figure out how we can plug you in to the discussions that are also happening on Wednesday mornings. So, where are my people at? Okay, so there's 5 people around here. We've got national, events and protests, local and state up front here, education with Susan, and Annika has comms on those comfy couches over there. Yeah, we're going to take the good seating. So if you would, we're going to take about 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe, break into these groups, talk about what you're doing in your group, and how you can be a part of it.
Yes, I can just see where I
Not education. Right. Hey girl. Hello. Good to see you. Hey, good to see great idea. Thank you very much. And I'm glad people are excited. Some people are more it's so good to have it accessible so people can hear it. You listen to it all the time. Like, yeah, my bachelor's so I should just find out. Thank you for travel. The National Association of Black Lives. That's good. There's a lot of listening. They actually already come. You know, with the lobby and such.
You want to do this?
Maybe,
She's a regular. So we're local state, and we're
kind of just getting off the ground. One of the things that like the low-hanging fruit was just to work with these food pantries that are in the area and trying to help them out. Because we knew from people who had worked in that area already in their careers that they were losing funding and so part of mobilizing for that has been to collect food from the larger group on a regular basis, what they can deliver, and also a couple people got out in the pavement and created a community garden. We got a plot that we could use as a group, and as she mentioned, it was too late to get it all going, but it's planned to try to do a significant project next year. This is my wife Celia, and she was part of the food co-op early days of getting that out of the ground. And so we were talking about other avenues of generating fresh produce for these pantries. And one is to build our connections with the food co-op and see what they can do as they get off the ground. And also to build our network with producers in the area and see, Celia's familiar with the gleaning from their lands at the right time and wherever. So developing mutual help networks that will get fresh, nutritious, healthy food to people who need it most in our general area. Is there anything you want to throw in there?
I mean, just that, I think, farmers are really up against it. So you got to work with them, and, be willing to do things like leading sheets and build that relationship. And mostly, I think they're just super generous people, while they're trying to survive themselves. And I think that's a real opportunity.
I mean, I think she's speaking because someone of our group went out to the farmer's market on Saturday and said, hey, can we have some free food? Let's just say that didn't go over very well. Okay.
Salvation Farms. Salvation Farms is a nonprofit.
But there's nothing terribly
There's nothing what?
terribly local.
Well, she was doing a lot. I haven't been in touch with her.
The churches like do the rotating.
And then, but I don't know if are they still active?
And they put up some farms in the area.
Yeah. They've been working several years to build that.
I mean, so we're developing these different sources.
I can.
Well, I mean, if with urban doing it,
Maybe we can. Maybe they need volunteer. Is that what they
I mean, let me just stay on the overview without getting into the deep dive. Another area besides food was energy, where the energy subsidies were going away, and also we had a person in our local group who was part of what is it called? Window dressers.
Window dressers. It's helping to keep resources in order. And we are also a community organization. We're in our third year in 4 towns, and St. Johnsbury is in its second year, I think. But we build together. Trying to bring two-sided clear plastic inserts so that, and they're from zero income. You can pay nothing or you can pay a low cost for the windows. It started in Maine, and Maine cuts off wood for us, sends it to sends us all the widgets to make the phrase, and that if you're getting 5 inserts, you come into 4 hours. And so everybody is participating in the building of the inserts. It's very exciting project, because a lot of people are like, I don't know how to do any of that. Well, half an hour after they're into it, they not only have met someone they're enjoying being with, but they
So that's another very local thing that our group is looking into. It's something we discussed this past small group meeting, was getting involved in this new education bill that's been passed by the legislature, which I read, I mean, maybe you can talk about this. Yeah, no, perfect, because I've noted you down here. I'm definitely going to be in touch with you. But this quote-unquote education bill, when I read the headline in the Caledonia Record, it said, it's just passed. It should take about 5 to 8 years to implement. And it's like, what? You can't make this any simpler? Anyway, the education bill and the implementation of it, and how it trickles down from up there, where you're writing about, down to the local school level and what the changes are going to happen. That's another area where we're saying this is something that we really need to understand. We need to be able to communicate it. We need to mobilize people to be involved in this process, not just sit around and be a victim of it. That's really all I've got for right now. But we are working on. I think my personal thing that I would like to see is working on solutions. Being against what someone else is doing or saying, but coming up with solutions and working. I think it's super important. We are a small state. We can do amazing things if we work together in this small community. But right now we're like a microcosm of a vision that reflects the state of the nation, and I think that needs to be something we work on. That's what I think we can be working on in this group, because we have this opportunity. We have such an educated and engaged small population. We should be able to do something that is leading the way rather than following in the way that we solve our problems.
Well said. Good presentation.
Thank you. I didn't have any notes. I live it. Do you want to say something about the State House, the state of the State House?
I don't know that there's much that I can say about the state of the State House. I think it's outside of my realm. I think my only job, I really separate myself from my opinion on anything. And just crazy enough, I know there are a lot of very able people who get angry about this, but my job is really nothing's in it, where my job is really to just educate people. And so sometimes that's really conservative. I don't focus on conservative policy, but there is overlap. And so I really just want all of us as a whole, not just the volunteers. So I have a sort of 5-year plan. Last year I was just doing the line. I went to bond, if you will, with the National Black Professional Lobbyist Association, and so I've been able to branch out in this next legislative session here in Minnesota, as well as in Mississippi. And then the 5-year plan is to be across all 50 states with the help of lobbyists. So be a real plan. I know you can partner on it, and you know, I need the sauce to keep going. But the real goal is to really keep people engaged in a way that they're not engaged in the state legislative policies efforts forward. So whether you agree with me, disagree with me, or somewhere in between, I welcome you to be involved as soon as the session starts in January. There's a period, whether you know it or not, of the legislature called crossover period, and I am a do or die lobbyist. If it has not had movement by that crossover period, which is the first week of March, you're really hanging out, and that's how I feel about the situation. It doesn't mean that I stop working, because they just mean there's only is from January until that first week of March. So after we celebrate New Year, hopefully you'll join me at Lottery. It's an excellent time. Please focus on the legislature and what's happening here, especially as we're in the most recent region of whom we are the one most in the entire state every single. So I think it stands on there. I think that I've had Dr. here, Becky, there she is. I hope she'll tune into the healthcare area. I know some business owners. I hope they'll tune into, I love Becky, Gavin, and Buttery, as well as the owners and the big. I hope you'll tune into the zoning and planning. You know, there's so much to talk about in the house. But whatever you care about and whatever you're most passionate about in the future, tune into that education with piece of the legislature. Just pick what you love, tune in. That's all that I can say.
I think something that you just said, you just try to educate. Is that what you said? You don't pick sides. And I think...
I'm not going to write about consumer policy, but if I'm asked a question, I will answer.
Yeah, and I think that's a key, both in the education question that I already spoke about how education is going to change, what might be lacking in education, because part of this ability to speak to people who don't agree with you, you need to be educated. You need to understand them, and you need to be able to make yourself understood. So, this idea of educating us, and your work is educating us, should educate us about everything. That's what education should be about, not about a narrow alley of perspective.
I don't want to act too bipartisan here. Let me be very real with you. I mean, there is not a time that I will deny teaching somebody about anything that I want about. The things that I focus on is educating marginalized people about what will directly affect our African. So that really is my focus. I do want to be clear on that. But yeah, no, especially as it relates to education. Last session, I found myself in many conversations that really had nothing to do with the things that I believe in. But I can still explain that, and I will help and educate because, you know, I think that misinformation was marketed on both sides the last time. So we gotta combine that. So I'm excited to be
It might be fair to say that focus on policies that are not beneficial to marginalized people, right? Okay, there you go. So we have to own what our side is. And that helps the communication.
You talk about stories, that does something in your brain too. Not just the narrative of facts.
Yeah, even don't jump on
yeah, when you talk about stories, yeah, it's different.
Small things that administration is doing that are good or better.
Yeah.
Very, very little, and maybe their stories are not but if we convey those things to folks who are adamantly behind this administration,
It's a good point because I'm counting here voting for this administration. and it was an overwhelming. I mean, the first Trump election was really not very working class. The working class supported, I think, Clinton at that point, right? I mean, at that time, the Democratic Party still had all the unions and so on and so forth. But now at this point, if you drive through the rural areas, I was driving down to help out with the local election in Orange County. And as I went down, all the houses that were dilapidated, had seen better days and didn't have the money to renovate, a lot of those were Trump savings. And a lot of the people in California County are like that too. I think we all know that Trump's a lot of bluster, a lot of talk without the walk, and but I think he intentionally tried to tap into certain unmet needs that the Democratic Party was not doing. And I think we do well to sort of recognize that there's no monopoly on the good rhetoric, right? There's needs that are being met.
Indivisible does have a focus, but not being partisan, because we need more than just one group or the other to make the movement to save democracy in a government that's
I was interested in your topic about education, because it seems like, from my view, a lot of education for political processes, there's a lot of unmet potential, avenues and ways that people can organize and express themselves, claim power that isn't being used, but was fought for by earlier generations to make sure that we had that balance. Is that how you see it? There's certain, especially for local politics, there's ways that we can make our voice heard that, for example, I had no idea about this January to March session. I wish I did.
So our sessions are usually January, ending around May or June. However, crossover is the middle period where the legislature takes a vote in alignment with spring break. If your bills have not moved in some capacity, that is usually don't. That's how it goes. I think that the question was.
Everybody, let's just take a few minutes and wrap it up, and we'll get back together.
Well, I was wondering, are you finding that there's a lot of ways that communities can claim local power, even though for our unmet needs that we don't know about, and that's kind of maybe by design?
So I think the first thing that I've learned is that as soon as you start talking about policy and you say legislature, people turn their brains off. They're like, I don't understand that language. It's very confusing to me. I worked all day. I don't have time for it. So policy for the people that's really been kind of my avenue is 10 bullet points. It used to be every day. I got told that was overwhelming. But so now it's once a week or twice a week. People yeah, even 10 bullet points every day for 2 months. So I think that's really we have an influx of information to all of us from social media, from news, and yeah. So I think finding those avenues in which people have that 5 minutes max. They got 120 characters and meeting them at that avenue where you can really help them understand what's going on. I think that it's easy to be nonpartisan in those times because once you educate people, they'll usually follow the side of it. They usually understand things better about how this financially is affecting. So yeah, I think that's the thing is to really translate it into ways that short
Well, thanks. Oh, wait, what's the buttery event that you're talking about?
Oh, no, buttery event. I just got buttery event.
It's sponsored by
I love it. I love it. Oh, Maggie, Gavin, I said you maybe go get your friend.
I saw Gavin at Joe's Brook the other day. It was really cool.
Anyone who haven't said anything, do you want to say anything? No, I'm just listening to that. How does it sound? It sounds real good. I like what this lady said.
Get involved in your municipal government. There's usually a meeting scheduled for different boards. Right now, Planning Commission meets always the third,
somehow change would happen.
Tuesday of every month.
One of the things that
Select board for St. J
I
is
think
the second and fourth
looking
Monday.
into is the strategic thinking that says.
Ever since Martin
not really
Luther
that valuable to
tacked
put
his,
on your-
what is it, to the doors?
95. That's a bit more than 10, but 95 these
Well,
People
and started Protestantism against the Catholic Church. We still do that in St. Johnsbury. We tack the letter to the door of the Welcome Center, and that's the notice of what the public hearing is. No other way.
And I sent the newspaper.
Yeah.
It's on the town website.
They probably still post it.
all of a sudden there was a shift.
So, is that good? Are we good? Everyone. The local group meets every other week. But it's on Wednesday. Yeah, on Wednesday, 11. I know that.
Is this week the general meeting or is this week?
It is a general meeting. I can't remember that far back. Till last Wednesday.
What we're doing,
You're doing a lot of other.
during the week, we'll probably migrate here and get the other. There are a lot of places that don't get to that, so it's 11 and 12 meetings. So,
It's
There are those people that are.
not this Wednesday, this Wednesday is the general meeting, next week is the regular.
all right, so this coming, like 2 days from now is
The general meeting.
the general meeting. Yeah, week I asked you, Bill, I know you
But what's our next steps?
But this group,
Yeah.
I think they'll tell us. Make sure I asked
At least the logo.
A little
I heard it was free beer, not just free.
Okay, let's get back together. Okay. Hopefully you got a good little taste of what we're doing in our work groups here, our action groups. And hopefully you've connected with some new folks. We are going to be adding, like I said earlier, that after hours group. So if you would like to get involved with that, please come talk to us. We need people to host this, people to produce it. Do we want to do this online? If you have ideas, throw them up on our post-it wall here. This meeting is what you want from it. So let's make it what we want. We have a blank slate here.
The next meeting is?
Next meeting, third Monday. That's what we're gonna claim third Mondays as ours. So right here, September 15th, we'll do the same time.
Yeah, seems perfect.
So before we wrap it up, does anybody have any questions for Susan, us about how to, anything?
Well, I just had an idea. I live across the street. Seems like I might be helpful because I live across the street. If people have questions, but where do you go? Where is it?
You could do that.
That's all.
And please make sure to follow us on social media. I know we're planning on meeting on every third Monday, But we're hoping come the first Monday, we will do a digital meeting where everybody can tune in no matter where they are.
Any other questions out there?
No question, just want to say thank you for doing this.
I want to give a big thank you to Leah and Crystal. They did a ton of work. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Here's the community.
Cheers!
Hey everybody, thanks for coming out. Make sure to follow us, hit the like, follow, and share.
Oh, okay. I'm glad.